Welcome to the Simply Vegan podcast, brought to you by the team at Vegan Food and Living, the UK's best-selling vegan magazine. Today we're kicking off our summer cookery series. If you have no clue what to do with cauliflower, need tips on saving money on your food bill, or want to know how to get a rise out of your cakes, make sure you tune in every Thursday for the next month or so. If you listen regularly, don't worry, Molly and I will be back for our usual catch-ups in August, but in the meantime, have a listen to our chat with the Happy Pear. Just prepare to be very hungry by the end of the episode. Oh, and just quickly before we get started, don't forget you can sign up to our newsletters at veganfoodandliving.com/welcome to stay up to date with podcast news. And you can try an issue of Vegan Food and Living for just 99p at veganfoodandliving.com/podcast. Today we are joined by everyone's favourite Irish twins. No, it's not Jedward. It is the Happy Pear. I just need to ask you a quick question. Do you remember kissing me?
Yes, of course. How could we forget? How could we ever forget?
Is this a scandal?
No,
tell me more.
I think you do it to all the girls. So we were at Vevolution and it was kind of like the creme de la creme, wasn't it? Like Derek Sarno was there and Bosch, and it was just brilliant. I think it was like 2019, and I was kind of like, oh, it's the Happy Pear, I need to get a picture with them. And as like you counted down, you kind of both kissed me on the cheek. So it's like my prized picture on my phone.
Oh my God, I love this.
So how are you guys? What have you been up to? You're obviously super busy these days.
Well, this morning we got up at 4:45. A friend of ours, we're in a hotel in London now. A friend of ours, Tony Riddle, crashed in our hotel room because we got back from something late. And we got up at 4:45 and we met Chris Evans, you know, the guy, the Chris Evans, the radio show. Yeah, we met him at 5:20 and we ran with him to his work because we met him yesterday. And then we all went up and we did a little bit on his radio show, and it was such fun. It was it's now 9 a.m. and I've got 17,000 steps.
Oh my gosh, you're an inspiration.
I've got about 5, I think.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I have as well. That's so funny. I remember seeing you guys on Somebody Feed Phil, and you just ran around London, and I was just like, how are these guys doing
it? Great fun. Phil's a great man. That was such.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
He really is, and that show is such a nice show because not only is Phil a wonderful man, but his brother Richard produces it. Then his best friend John is the director. So it's real. His son works on it. His wife comes in. It's this real lovely family feel to it, where you really feel.
I love it. It makes me feel just so wholesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Really great guy. Really great laugh. Shooting with him.
I definitely need to listen to the Chris Evans show. I love Chris Evans. So, yeah, that'd be a good one. So is that was live this morning?
But this morning we were on for a short while, but yesterday we were on for about 20 minutes and we had a great laugh with him. It was such, like, our type of energy, you know? It was like, wow, this is so exciting and wild and anything goes almost.
Yeah, because he's vegan, isn't he?
Yeah. His wife Tash has been like this kind of. She kind of leads the vegan revolution in their house.
Yeah, I went to Run Fest a few years ago, which he runs, and he was there. So yeah, he's brilliant. Anyway, let's stop talking about Chris Evans. Let's talk about you guys. So, so you've got a new book out, The Veg Box, which Molly and I both have a copy. Thank you very much for sending that to us.
Right here.
It is such a lovely book. It's just, a cookbook for me, first of all, has to look pretty. It's got to look nice. It's got to look like something I want to pick up. So, number 1, tick. You nailed it.
Well done. You nailed that.
But obviously, you guys are all about the veg, aren't you? And it's packed with amazing ways. Like, I think it's 10 vegetables, 10 ways, isn't it?
Using 10 ingredients or less. Because we wanted to, I guess, focus on simplicity. Like, we've had a veg shop now for almost 18 years. And it was how we kind of started. It was like this book is like our love letter to vegetables.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have been right. Like, it's full of, it's, as we said, most cookbooks are breakfast, lunch and dinner, whereas we started with the vegetables because everyone knows that kind of lonely courgette in your fridge. You buy a pack of 3, you use 1, there's 2 sitting there, and every time you open the fridge, you feel guilty because it's sitting there looking at you, going, use me. And we've had so many years in the vegetable shop. We've gone, what do I do with courgettes? What do I do with broccoli? That we just wrote a chapter for each of the 10 most common veg. And we did in 10 ways using 10 ingredients. And it's about empowering people because, like, statistically, people waste 30% of the food they buy. So it's about helping you to use the veg. So you've got those 2 lonely courgettes. Well, in the book, there's like a delicious courgette fritters. There's, with 8 ingredients, takes 15 minutes. There's a courgette and lime curd cake. There's, a one-pan courgette pizza where we've got courgette in the base and we use courgette water, and it's like a banging pizza that you do in one dish in 20 minutes. So there's lots of practical, easy, simple things.
Well, that's what we wanted to talk about today, because this is part of our cookery series. So, I mean, when you go vegan, when I went vegan, certainly, it just blew my mind what you could do with vegetables. So shall we go through some common vegetables, like you just mentioned about courgette? That's, some of us are just like, I have no idea what to do. Like, for example, let's start with aubergine.
Oh, great. I love it. Love a good aubergine. One of our top 3 favorites.
Me too. I
never cook with aubergine. It scares me. It's weird.
Aubergine,
straight up, it's weird.
Even aubergine, in English we use it as a word to describe a colour, but in the US it's called an eggplant, because traditionally aubergines were small. They grow like little white eggs on a plant. Like they kind of look like an eggplant. But they're part of the nightshade family, and they're one that people are afraid of because so often people undercook them and they end up chewy and rubbery and undercooked and just awful. But aubergine is magnificent when you roast it properly and you get it past that kind of caramelization point. It's melt in your mouth. It's so succulent and such a wonderful conduit of flavour. So on its own, it's not that it's bland, but when you do add oil, it has a wonderful capacity to absorb a lot of oil. So you want to kind of be middle about it, not be too. And maybe I would say a couple of top tips for anyone listening of how to unlock aubergine's flavour, because as Stephen said, it's like a sponge. So you need plenty of liquid. Like if baking it, I find baking it is how I would typically do it. But so
what do you do? Do you chop it into big chunks, small chunks? Talk to me, Dave.
Well, it depends on how long you're going to bake it for. If you're going to bake it, you will always need to salt it. You will always salt it, as in put a little bit of salt on it, a little bit of salt in the pan. Like maybe you're going to chop it into, depends on how you're going to do it, a little bit of oil and tamari. So I will always use tamari or soy sauce with aubergine because it just umami.
And as a rule of thumb, so if not thumb. I'm struggling with the THs, but typically the smaller you cook any vegetable, the quicker it's going to cook in an oven. So try to cut it to a similar size that you're comfortable with. Many people traditionally thought you had to salt aubergines and then wash it off to remove the bitter flavour. This is gone. This has been bred out. No need to do this. They're amazing carriers of flavour, and when you do roast them, many people will take them out of the oven, kind of shake them around and leave them when they're a bit slimy, but you want your aubergine, it's ideally in a fan oven, not steamed, where it has the ability to kind of draw the moisture out, and they should come out kind of slightly golden, and when you put them in your mouth, they will literally just melt, and it's almost like
oh my gosh, I'm so hungry.
It's a great recipe, Holly, which I challenge you to try. It's a lovely one in the book, and it's an aubergine with a miso glazed, and it's served with smashed potatoes, and it's just so tasty. I think I make a pesto out of it. There's like a kale or a almond and red pepper pesto, which I popped through. Stephen will go find it now. But it's a very tasty, I've often made it with harissa and all sorts of things, but it's just a stuffed aubergine half that you bake in the oven, and it's so
I
tasty.
love that one.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I've served that one loads of times.
Or layered aubergine lentil bake. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Even 10 ingredients.
I've been charring aubergine on my gas grill, but I tend to buy the aubergines that are a little bit too big, and then they don't cook all the way through, and then I put them in the oven, and then they just get really wrinkly and sad. So I need to perfect this recipe and just get a smaller aubergine so that I can do it.
Yeah, two things you can do there, Molly, is to either chop it into smaller slices so that heat can transfer to the middle of the aubergine. So what's happening there is you're cutting the slices too big, and the temperature is too hot, so it's charring on the outside, but not the heat hasn't transferred into the middle. So either you cook it at a lower temperature or else just slice it thinner.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
You got it, Molly. You got it.
This is talking about cooking. I love it.
Right, I will give that recipe you mentioned a go.
Yes, brilliant.
Whether the kids are going to be sold on it, I'm not sure, but I will try. Let's talk next about cauliflower then. This is a bit of a controversial one. My daughter hates it, which is really annoying because she's vegan, and there's so many amazing things you can do with it. I love cauliflower. However, back in the day, like when I used to hate it, like my grandparents would just boil it and cover it in that disgusting sort of cheesy sauce. But yeah, what are some of the cool things you can do with cauliflower?
Yeah, cauliflower, I'm similarly, I hated it growing up. And even as a chef for years, I always hated it.
It didn't feature in our first couple of books because we just didn't use. We thought it was crap vegetable. But
I think everyone's like mother has ruined, or like grandparent or whatever has ruined cauliflower for them. My mum the same. She would have like a tower steamer and just steam the shit out of the cauliflower, and it was just this really bitter, soft,
limp,
just
limp,
limp.
It
was limp.
Nothing about it. But
so bland.
The key to unlocking cauliflower's flavour is to roast it. It's to draw the moisture out. And there is quite a lot of, like the way courgette is quite a high water-based vegetable, but cauliflower similarly has quite a high degree of moisture in it. So when you roast it, it has the ability for that water to evaporate and then the sugars to caramelise and char. And it's just... It is magnificent. And
it would be in our top 3 vegetables now. Like it's made its way from like 100 on the list to now. It's such a good vegetable.
On the topic of waste, so as we mentioned earlier, typically a third of all food is wasted from growing, from distribution, from the home consumer. And this can cost anyone listening there between 500 to 700 pounds per year. So there's a lot to be saved in this. And cauliflower leaves, most people discard and they go, oh, this is rubbish. Whereas cauliflower leaves, when you kind of rip them off, you slice down that spine of it, take a bit of the spine out if it's too hard, and just roast them along with the cauliflower with a little salt and oil, and they crisp up, and they literally, when you put them in your mouth, they go, like a pack of crisps, and they're wonderful. And similarly, like cauliflower, like if you want to be very simple and just taste it kind of as elegant, just put salt and oil on it. And typically, like for one cauliflower head, 1 tablespoon of oil will suffice, and a generous pinch of kind of a coarse sea salt. And then kind of putting things like smoked paprika, putting a bit of tamari through, putting a bit of maple glaze through it, so you get this type of thing. We do a nice kind of buffalo cauliflower wing in it, which is beautiful, served through kind of these Mexican little tacos. It's such a lovely one. Even cauliflower rice works great. I love the rainbow roasted cauliflower salad. So it's like really nice. So you get this roast, and we try to like serve it with pomegranate, serve it with kind of, it's just magnificent. Put turmeric through it, so you end up with yellow cauliflower.
And then you've got the contrast, the yellow and the red, and with a big green, it just looks like a rainbow salad. So
that sounds delicious.
Oh, amazing. Anything with pomegranate on top, I'm all over it.
What do you guys think about, when you go to a restaurant and you see cauliflower steak and it's kind of like, I don't know, £10 or something, and you're thinking, it's just a slice of cauliflower. Do you think, obviously it's good that those options are there, but do you think it's kind of a little bit cheeky?
I think the steak word is possibly a little bit of an ingest, because if you think steak is quite grisly and chewy, and cauliflower, it's hard to get that texture. I think mushrooms much more lend themselves to that steak-like chew or grizzle.
But even to your question, like I wouldn't mind paying it at all, because you're just looking for a tasty dinner. And I remember I went to a fancy restaurant there. It was this year at some stage, and I ordered the cauliflower steak, and it was cauliflower steak, and there was roast potatoes, and there was other stuff. So there was plenty on it, but the cauliflower wasn't cooked properly. And this was quite a fancy restaurant, so when it's chewed, like there's still a crunch, and it's like, this should be melting my mouth. This should be just sublime and subtle and elegant, but it was like crunk, crunk, crunk. And it was like, geez, can you say, it was like disappointing.
So, and I think part of the challenge with that is, like, if you think about a steak, probably there's 1,000 calories in it, possibly. And the challenge with cauliflower, typically it's lower in energy density, so it's higher in water. So you have to kind of get more fat in it. So I think in the case of that, maybe if it's wrapped in pastry or something, just to give it more,
or if it's drizzled with a nice tahini kind of dressing over it, or something else to make it
something that's going to bring more calories and just deliver more satiation. Because fat, when compared to protein, carbohydrate, and fat, fat has twice the calories when compared to protein and carbohydrate. So us as humans, the goal of our life is we need foods in the hope that maybe we'll pass on our DNA one time. And if we can find fat, it has twice the calories. So it's, so we love it. We're hardwired for it. So I think in the case of a cauliflower steak, I think, yes, cauliflower steak is great, but I think it needs to be served with kind of a more richer sauce, just to make it seem more indulgent and to justify that £10 price tag.
Yeah. Well, it's probably gone up now, it'll probably be more like 15 quid.
I was going to say, what? Where are you living? £10 for a meal? That's good.
I went to, I think it's £22 or €22. So.
Wow, God. That's crazy. You said, I love that you've got like your top 100 like list of vegetables. So what's your like number one veg? What what mushrooms. Do you eat most days?
I'd say it's mushrooms.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
mushrooms. Like if I'm cooking, it will be mushrooms. Mushroom for just flavour. variety. There's 6 times more fungi on the planet than there is actual plants. So there's such a variety of mushrooms out there. And we only cook with probably there's 10 or 15 common mushrooms. Now there's so many of them readily available, but they're just such carriers of flavor. They're just the incredible substrate that you can get meaty, grisly textures. You can use them for breakfast, for lunches, they are my absolute favorite.
What's your favorite mushroom?
Oyster.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
Them.
The best.
It's so sad when people say they don't like mushrooms. I'm like, just give them a chance. There's so many, like you say, there's so many different types and so much you can do with them.
Yeah, I think it's to move the cook. Many people think of a mushroom kind of almost like a slug. Many people who don't like mushrooms, whereas I think when you do say take a mushroom and you'll compress it. So the whole idea is, say you take, an oyster mushroom and you flatten it out in a pan. And if you get a clean pan and compress it down on top of it, not only are you like compressing the mushroom onto the surface of the pan, so you're going to get more charring, you're also, by compressing, you're encouraging more evaporation of the moisture in the mushroom. So you get this really incredible grisly texture. So once you start adding flavour into that, you really can get that mimics that steak-like note. And you can do that with oyster mushrooms. Maitake are a great one. Sometimes we do it with a lion's mane mushroom. So these are like lion's mane, for anyone listening who doesn't know what it is. It's kind of like this white fluffy cloud mushroom that met like the snow monster or something. Like you're looking at it going, oh my God, is that a mushroom? But again, when that's compressed, you can really get this almost like a chicken steak, like a chicken
and a lion's mane mushroom is one of the mushrooms that in studies have shown that they can help recreate more neural pathways in your brain. Like it looks like a brain, it looks like neurons in your brain, and it's been shown in studies. Like there's lots of supplements now of lion's mane because it's heralded in terms of brain health.
Nature is just so amazing, isn't it? I mean, what? That is incredible. Okay, Molly, did you have any vegetables that you kind of really don't cook with a lot, but you'd like to?
So I love beetroot. Love it. Love it, love it. But I always find myself a little bit stuck for inspiration. I've seen that you've got loads of recipes in your book, and I might tackle the spaghetti and meatballs later. But what would your favourite recipe for beetroot
They
be?
were good. I remember cooking them. If you're going to cook one from the beetroot chapter, I would cook those beetroot burgers. They are absolutely class. Like, invite people over and cook those burgers and they will be your friends for life because they are really, really good.
One of our most popular recipes ever really was the beetroot burgers from our first book, and that had about 25 different ingredients. So with this book, we wanted to really pare it back. Pare it back. Sorry, that was all. But
it's nearly about as bad as my Jedward joke.
But
We've forgotten about that, Holly, don't worry.
But we wanted to see if we could make the same flavourful burgers with less than 10 ingredients. So that was the goal of these ones. And these are really beautiful, easy, delicious burgers. And generally you'll serve them not necessarily in a bun, but more kind of put a bit of nice kind of carrot hummus or sweet potato hummus or some form of hummus with it and some greens on top of that. But I love the beetroot pesto. So the idea of beetroot pesto might sound ridiculous, and pesto and beetroot typically are high in water, so you kind of go, that won't marry well together. But it has such a vibrant pink colour. And when you do serve it with like a spaghetti, it looks remarkable. You're looking at it going, wow.
And we make about half a ton of pesto a week. So we literally, we make a lot of pesto. Because we sell it all around Ireland. So to make a beetroot pesto, like you want it to emulsify so that it's a kind of like, you've got a consistent texture across your pesto. And because beetroot's very high in water and it's quite starchy, you're going to end up with chunks in it unless you kind of do it properly. So you played around with this one for quite a bit to get that beetroot pesto pasta, which is perfect. Which was very good. Yeah.
People are going to get so hungry listening to this episode.
We haven't had brekkie. We haven't managed a brekkie yet. So
Neither have we. I'm so hungry.
Part of the challenge with the book was to try to come out with how can we, we want to give a range of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and some desserts. And it's kind of like what veg lend themselves
to
the
desserts. Challenge was to try to come up with a
and we tried doing a mushroom chocolate mousse, and we tried doing aubergine pavlova. Didn't work. But the likes of beetroot and carrot or courgette tend to lend themselves more than any vegetables. Like beetroot is typically the sweetest of all vegetables. Carrot is the second sweetest of all vegetables. So beetroot works really well, and it combines really well with chocolate and coffee. So there's a lovely recipe for a beetroot chocolate and coffee cake, and there's a lovely one where we do
9 ingredients.
There's a lovely 2-ingredient chocolate mousse that we'll put on top of a berry brownies, which is beautiful, like really elegant.
I made I think it was a beetroot and bean curry which was, I think, was a Riverford recipe, and I'd never put sort of beans with beetroot or beetroot in a curry, but that was really good. Aubergine, did you say aubergine pavlova?
Yeah,
that
right.
sounds disgusting.
Yeah, that's something.
I guess once you've got a veg shop and, a local farmer calls you up and said, I've got, 500 kilos of aubergines, I'll give them to a special place, you just take them. You go, absolutely, we'll take them. And you just have to figure out how to put them into everything. So you're really trying to push the boundaries of aubergines. You're putting in curries, you're putting in lasagnas, you're putting in salads. And then you go, the bakers and the bakery shift, can you come up with something which we can try to do with aubergines? And then Stephen will try it with pavlovas. We tried it in chocolate cookies. We tried it, we tried it in loads of different things, but aubergine just doesn't work that well for desserts.
No, I love that.
At least you tried.
Yeah. Okay, well, last one that I would particularly like to know about is leeks. I find them a bit stringy and they stink the house out. Like, whenever I smell leeks, it just takes me back to my childhood, going to my grand's house, and she'd always be cooking, like, leek and potato soup or leek and potato pies, and it just, your whole hair or your clothes would stink when you came, sort of left the house. So what sort of things do you cook with leeks?
Leek is definitely in our top 5 favourite veg. Like, it
really controversial.
Yeah, like, it's right up there. Like, it's a serious contender. Like, we have a serious love affair with leek. And I guess the first point to say with leek is, like, in the UK and Ireland, we typically use the white part of the leek. People don't use the green part. But if you go to northern Spain, we had a very chef from País Basco. And he was saying that in northern Spain, they just use the green part of the leek. But what we do is we'll use the green and the white. Like, make sure to use the full part of the leek. But it's such a subtle, soft, delicious vegetable. Like, it really is. There's a tenderness to leek, which takes time and patience to unlock, because otherwise you can end up crude and crass. So there's a way. It's a bit like this. You've got to speak a certain language with leek, and Stephen's going to tell you how now.
Yeah, I think it steams really well. Like a leek, like say you are cooking your beetroot and bean curry, Holly, and if you do take your leek, like the challenge with leek is that if you are going to use the green part of the leek, just to give it a good rinse, like a real soak rinse, because lots of sediment often hides in the middle of the little funnels up the top. Is perfect. It's almost like it's designed to catch sand. So there's loads of sand. And so typically what I will do is I'll chop the base, the roots off. I'll chop it long ways down the leek, open it up and give it a good rinse inside it. Soak, rinse. Just make sure there's no sediment. And then chop it up to whatever kind of size, whether you want longer pieces or shorter pieces. But you kind of want it to hold that integrity of the leek. And then pop it into your curry or whatever you're cooking. Put a bit of salt just to draw a bit of moisture on, and put the lid on. And allow it just the moisture just to evaporate, and kind of almost allow it to sweat for kind of 5-6 minutes. Take the lid off, allow the moisture to evaporate. You're gone from steaming to suddenly frying. And what you want to do is allow it to get to the base of the pan and just char ever so slightly. So you get the soft, subtle sweetness with the char caramelized bit on the outside. And I love it.
And when you bake it, you unlock a sweetness to it as well. So you can end up with a crispy golden caramelized outside, and then a soft, sweet, succulent gooiness that almost tastes like sweets. Like, it's like that hybrid, that kind of slightly pervy hybrid between savory and sweet. Like, it's really...
like one recipe that was my favorite one was kind of a sweet miso leek kind of pastry parcel. So instead of like a sausage roll, we wanted to do a leek roll. But to do it with kind of a miso, kind of maple pastry parcel, and it's just, I love it. It was a little out there, but it was fun.
Molly, have you ever seen anyone get so excited about vegetables, Molly?
No, I'm so in love with it. It's just so inspiring to see people just this happy about vegetables.
You cannot look at the Happy Pear and not be happy, can you? You guys are just so smiley and excitable and passionate, and it's like, I just love you.
Thank you, Molly. We love you too.
I do think you need your own cookery show, though. What's going on with that?
Please.
Is that in the pipeline?
Definitely.
It should be.
Yeah, no, definitely is. We're not sure exactly where or how or when.
We did pursue doing something with Phil and Rich, which was cool. Phil Rosenthal. We kind of were looking at doing stuff with kind of bigger stations and that.
Yeah.
Didn't get off the ground. So, but no, we definitely, it's something we're definitely working on at the moment. So watch this space.
Yeah. Well, just quickly, how did you sort of get to where you are now? Because it's quite an interesting story, isn't it? Because obviously you're both twins and you were on opposite sides of the world when you kind of made that change. Because you didn't used to be kind of like rugby playing, beer swilling, burger eating, like when you were at uni and stuff.
Yeah. So if anyone who doesn't know us, where Dave and Steve are identical twins, and we grew up in a small little town in Ireland. It's called Greystones. And yeah, we're 2 of 4 boys, and being identical twins,
Your poor mother.
Yeah, exactly.
Your
Poor mother. But even worse, like being identical twins, you're just hyper competitive because you've always been competing for love and attention every day of our lives. So, we tended to be overachievers. So by the time we were 18 or 19, we were playing off scratch and golf. We were playing semi-pro rugby. We played baseball for Ireland. Not that that was hard to do, but it was still something, Also, we went to all boys schools, so you got great street cred if you went out on a date with a pretty girl. So that was kind of like, we liked doing that too also. And then we ended up studying business, and same thing, being competitive in business. It's all about making money. So we were like, we're going to make loads of money, Steve. We're going to be really rich and make loads of money. And that's, we're going to win. But by the end of university, so we were 21, we both kind of had lost faith in that money is a god. And Steve turned to me one day and he said, Dave, I'm going away traveling. I'm not coming back till I'm happy, and you're not coming with me. And we shared a wardrobe up to this stage, and probably had only spent more than a night or two apart in our whole lives. Like, we are twins. So anyway, we both went away traveling separately for 2 years. We left as these two meat-eating, rugby-playing jocks. And over the next 2 years, life just took us on this journey where we ended up both separately becoming vegan. This is 20 years ago. We got into yoga and meditation and, gave up alcohol and got into farming and all sorts of things, and then came back 2 years later as these two strange creatures that people thought had really lost their way, and we started the shop.
Was there a particular country that sort of inspired you to sort of take on this vegan and yoga lifestyle?
I think it was probably there was a journey, but I do remember being in Guatemala, and there was this lady, Mary Powell. I was by the lakes of Lago Atitlan, which is this beautiful area where there's all volcanoes and there's a lake in the middle, and it's called the Land of Eternal Spring. That's they call it there. So there's loads of avocado trees, loads of mango trees. It's pretty idyllic. This lady, Mary Powell, she was there. She was 85, and she had her own little huerta, which is a little garden of vegetables. She used to go out there every morning gardening. I used to walk up the hills with her and collect avocados and mangoes with her. She was sprightly. She was 85. She was cooking lentils, cooking peasant, delicious vegan food. For her, it wasn't vegan. It was what she did. And that was very inspiring for me, because I saw this woman who was so full of life and vigor and energy, and what she ate was vegetables and lentils and that was glorious.
And she was so connected to the soil and the land and the earth. And I think that's part of the challenge of modern day living. So many of us can feel disconnected, isolated, lonely. Many of us can lack meaning. And I think food has the ability you break bread with someone and suddenly you feel there's a connection. Suddenly you're less divided. And I think the more we can use food as a vehicle, so many of us can feel disenfranchised in modern day living. But I think a friend often says the expression that politics starts in your plate, and every time you go to eat, you can choose what food system you want to support. And the more we can choose a food system that nourishes the soil, that encourages more biodiversity, that encourages more animal welfare, that encourages, more better environmental practices that support more sustainability, the more of this world we're all going to grow.
Definitely. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, as always, we could chat for hours, but I'm sure you need to go and have some breakfast now.
Yeah, like you guys. I'm going to cook some aubergines and leeks.
Oh, brekkie served.
Yeah. And let us know how you get on, Holly, if you do cook that aubergine dish. I'd love to hear it. And if your daughter eats it.
Yeah, if the children eat it, it'll be a winner. But yeah, I think they'll be doubtful, but I'll give it a go. So are you off home later? Because I know you go swimming every morning, don't you?
Yeah, we
at sunrise.
Every morning,
Yeah. So are you off home to Ireland?
We're doing book signings, so we go to book signings, and then we're doing 2 cooking demos this evening, and then we're doing
tomorrow. There's a vegan festival on which we're going doing a cooking demo with that,
and it's all good.
Oh, nice! Wow. So you weren't swimming in the Thames this morning?
No,
we're going to go to the Serpentine tomorrow, actually. And swim
nice!
With some guy at 5:30 in the morning or 6 in the morning. So that'd be exciting.
I'd love to join you one day, Molly. We'll have to go over to Greystone and kind of.
Yes, please.
If we were in London, we'd be there, but we're not. So
great.
Anyway, thank you so much, and yes, everyone, check out the new Happy Pear book, The Veg Box. Those guys are just so much fun to talk to. Join Molly and myself next Thursday when we'll be chatting to Bettina Campolucci-Bordi all about baking. So how do you get a rise out of your Yorkshires? What do you use instead of egg in your cakes? And in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, share the episode with your friends.